The Quest of Iranon. Into the granite city of Teloth wandered the youth, vine-crowned with his yellow hair, glistening with myrrh in his purple robe, torn with briars of the mountain Sidrak, that lies across the antique bridge of the stone. The men of Teloth are dark and stern, and dwell in square houses. With frowns they asked the stranger whence he had come, and where his name and fortune. So the youth answered, I am Iranon, and come from Ara, a far city that I recall only dimly, but seek to find again. I am a singer of songs that I learned in the fair city, and my calling is to make beauty with the things remembered of childhood. My wealth is in little memories and dreams, and in hopes that I sing in gardens when the moon is tender, and the west wind stirs the lotus buds. When the men of Teloth heard these things, they whispered to one another, for though in the granite city there is no laughter or song, the stern men sometimes look into the Catharian mountains in the spring and think of lutes, of distant Oni, whereof travelers have told, and thinking thus, they bade the stranger stay and sing in the square before the tower of Milan. Though they liked not the color of his tattered robes, nor the myrrh of his hair, nor his chaplet of vine leaves, nor the youth in his golden voice. At evening Iranon sang, and while he sang an old man prayed, and a blind man said he saw a nimbus over the singer's head. But most of the men of Teloth yawned, and some laughed. Some went away to sleep, for Iranon told nothing useful, singing only his memories, his dreams, and his hopes. I remember the twilight moon and soft songs, and the window where I rocked to sleep, and through the window was the street where the golden lights came, and where the shadows danced on houses of marble. I remember the square of moonlight on the floor that was not like any other, and the visions that danced in the moonbeams when my mother sang to me. And too I remember the sun of morning bright above the many-colored hills, in summer and the sweetness of flowers born on the south wind that made the trees sing. O Ara, city of marble and beryl, how many are thy beauties! How loved I the warm and fragrant groves across the Hylene Nithra, and the falls of the tiny Craw that flowed through the verdant valley. In those groves and in that vale the child wove wreaths for one another. And at dusk I dreamed strange dreams under the yath trees on the mountain, as I saw below me the lights of the city, and curving Nithra reflecting ribbons of stars. And in the city were places of veined and tinted marble, with golden domes and painted walls, and green gardens with cerulean pools and crystal fountains. Often I played in the gardens and waded in the pools, and lay and dreamed of the pale flowers under the trees, and sometimes at sunset I would climb the long hilly street to the citadel and the open place, and look down upon the Ara, the magic city of marble and beryl, splendid in a robe of golden flame. Long have I missed thee, Ara, for but I was young when I went into exile, but my father was thy king, and I shall come again for thee. For it is so decreed of fate. Although 7 lands have I sought thee, and some day shall I reign over thy groves and gardens, thy streets and palaces, and sing to men who shall know whereof I sing, and laugh not nor turn away, for I am Iranon, who was prince in Ara. That night the men of Teloth lodged the stranger in a stable, and in the morning an Akron came to him and told him to go to the shop of Athork the cobbler, and he apprenticed to him. But I am Iranon, the singer of songs, he said, and have no heart for the cobbler's trade. All in Teloth must toil, replied the Akron, for that is the law. Then said Iranon, where do ye toil? Is it not ye may live and be happy, and if ye toil only that ye may toil more? When shall happiness find you? Ye toil to live, but it is not life made of beauty and song, and if ye suffer no singers among you, where shall be the fruits of your toil? Toil without song is like a weary journey without an end. Were not death more pleasing? But the Acron was sullen and did not understand, and rebuked the stranger. Thou art a strange youth, and I like not thy face nor thy voice. The words thou speakest are blasphemy, for the gods of Teloth have said that toil is good. Our gods have promised us a haven of light beyond death, where there shall be rest without end, and crystal coldness amidst, which shall not vex thy mind with thought of his eyes or beauty. Go thou then to Athok the cobbler, or be gone out of the city by sunset. All here must serve, and song is folly. So Iranon went out the stable, and walked over the narrow stone streets between the gloomy square houses of granite, seeking something green in the air. But in Teloth was nothing green, for all was of stone. On the faces of men were frowns, but by the stone embankment along the sluggish river Zuro sate, a young boy with sad eyes, gazing into the waters to spy green budding branches washed down from the hills by the freshets. And the boy said to him, Art thou not indeed he of whom the Acrons tell, who seekest a far city in a fair land? I am Romnod, and born of blood of Teloth, but am not old in the ways of the granite city, and yearn daily for the warm groves and the distant lands of beauty and song. Beyond the Catharian hills lieth Onai, the city of lutes and dancing, which men whisper of and say is both lovely and terrible. Thither would I go, were I old enough to find the way, and thither shalt you go. Thou wouldst sing and have men listen to thee. Let us leave the city Teloth, and fare together among the hills of spring. Thou shalt shew me the ways of travel, and I will attend thy songs at evening, when the stars one by one bring dreams to the minds of dreamers, and peradventure it may be that Onai the city of lutes and dancing is even the fair Eira thou seekest. For it is told that thou hast not known Eira since old days, and a name often changes. Let us go to Onai, O Iranon, of the golden head, where men shall know our longings and welcome us as brothers, nor ever laugh or frown at what we say. And Iranon answered, Be it so, small one. If any in the stone place yearn for beauty, he must seek the mountains and beyond. And I would not leave thee to pine by the sluggish Zuro. But think not that delight and understanding dwell just across the Catharian mountains, or in any spot thou canst find. A day or a year or a lustrum's journey. Behold, when I was small like thee, I dwelt in the valley of Narthos, by the frigid Gexari, where none could listen to my dreams, and I told myself when I was older I would go to Sonara, on the southern slope, and sing to smiling dromedary men in the marketplace. But when I went to Sonara, I found the dromedary men all drunken and ribald, and saw that their songs were not as mine, so I travelled in a barge down the Exare to Onyx Wald. The soldiers at Jaran laughed at me and drave me out. So I wandered for many other cities. I have seen Stethalos, that is beyond the cataract, and have gazed on the marsh where Sonarth once stood. I have been to Thrar and Linark and Catatheron on the winding river. And I have dwelt in Olethe, in the land of Lomar. But thou had listened sometimes. They had ever been few, and I know that welcome shall await me on Eira, the city of marble and beryl, where my father once ruled as king. So for Eira shall we seek, though it were well to visit distant and loot-blessed Onai across the Cartharian hills, which may indeed be Eira, though I think not. Eira's beauty is past imagining, and none can tell of it without rapture, whilst Onai the camel drivers whispered leeringly. At sunset, Iranon and small Romnod went forth from Teloth, and for long wandered amidst the green hills and cool forests. The way was rough and obscure, and never did they seem nearer to Onai, the city of lutes and dancing. But in the dusk, as the stars came out, Iranon would sing of Eira and its beauties, and Ramnon would listen, so that they were happy after a fashion. They ate plentiful of fruits and red berries, and marked not the passing of time, but many years must have slipped away. Small Ramnod was now not so small, and spoke deeply instead of shrilly, though Iranon was always the same, and decked his golden hair with vines and fragrant resins found in the woods. So it came to pass one day that Ramnod seemed older than Iranon, though he had been very small when Iranon was found him watching for green budding branches in the Teloth, beside the sluggish stone bank of Zuro. Then one night when the moon was full, travelers came to a mountain crest, and looked down upon the myriad lights of Onai. Peasants had told they were near, and Iranon knew that this was not his native city of Ara. The lights of Onai were not like those of Ara, for they were harsh and glaring, while the lights of Ara shine as softly and magically as shone the moonlight on the floor by the window, where Iranon's mother once rocked him to sleep with song. But Onai was a city of lutes and dancing, so Iranon and Ramnon went down the steep slope they found, men whom songs and dreams would bring pleasure. And when they come into the town, they found rose-wreathed revelers, bound from house to house, leaning from windows and balconies, who listened to the songs of Iranon and tossed him flowers and applauded when he was done. Then for a moment did Iranon believe that he had found who thought and felt as even as he. Though the town was not a hundredth as fair as Ira, when dawn came, Iranon looked about with dismay, for the domes of Onai were not golden in the sun, but gray and dismal, and the men of Onai were pale with reveling and dull with wine. And unlike the radiant men of Ara, but because the people had thrown him blossoms and acclaimed his songs, Iranon stayed, and with Ramnon, who liked the revelry of the town, and wore his dark hair with roses and myrtle. Often at night Iranon sang to the revelers, but he was as before, crowned only with the vine of the mountains, and remembering the marble streets of Ara, and the high-lined Nithra. In the free-sconed halls of the monarch did he sing, upon a crystal dais raised over a floor that was a mirror, and as he sang he brought pictures to his hearers, till the floor seemed to reflect old, beautiful, and half-remembered things, instead of the wine-reddened feasters who pelted him with roses, and the king bade him put away his tattered purple, and clothed him in satin and cloth of gold, with rings of green jade and bracelets of tinted ivory, and lodged him in gilded tapestries, chambered on a bed of sweet carven wood, with canopies and coverlets of flowers and embroidered silk. Thus dwelt Iranon of Onai, in the city of lutes and dancing. It is now known that Iranon tarried in Onai, but one day the king brought to the palace some wild whirling dancers from the Linarian east, and dusky flute players from Drinan in the east, and after the revelers threw their roses, not so much at Iranon as the dancers and the flute players, and day by day, Ramnod, who had been a small boy in granite Teloth, grew coarser and redder with wine, till he dreamed less and less, and listened with less delight to the songs of Iranon. But though Iranon was sad, he ceased not to sing, and at evening told again his dreams of Ara, the city of marble and beryl. Then one night the red and fattened Ramnod snorted heavily amongst the poppied silks of his banquet couch, and died writhing, whilst Iranon, pale and slender, sang himself in a far corner. And when Iranon had wept over the grave of Ramnod, and strewn it with green budding branches, such as Ramnod used to love, he put aside his silks and gauds, and went forgotten out of Onai, the city of lutes, dancing clad only in the ragged purple in which he had come, and garlanded with fresh vines from the mountains. Into the sunset wandered Iranon, seeking still for his native land, and for men who would understand and cherish his songs. Dreams in all the cities of Cyrodiath, and in lands beyond. The Biznack desert, gay-faced children laughed at his olden songs in tattered robes of purple, but Iranon stayed ever young, and wore wreaths upon his golden head whilst he sang of Era, the light of the past and hope of the future. So came he one night to the squalid cot of an antique shepherd, bent and dirty, who kept lean flocks on the stony slope above a quicksand marsh. To this man Iranon spoke, as to many others. Canst thou tell me where may find Era, the city of marble and beryl, where flowers the hayline of Nithra, and the falls of a tiny craw sing to verdant valleys, and hills forested with yoth trees? And the shepherd, hearing, looked long and strangely at Iranon, as if recalling something very far away in time, and noted each line of the stranger's face and his golden hair and his crown of vine. But he was old and shook his head as he replied, "O stranger, I have indeed heard the name of Era, and the other names thou hast spoke. But they come to me afar down the waste of long years. I heard them in my youth from the lips of a playmate, a beggar's boy given to strange dreams, who would leave long tales about the moon and the flowers and the west wind. We used to laugh at him, for we knew from his birth, and though he thought himself a king's son, he was comely even as thou, but full of folly and strangeness. And he ran away when small to find that he would listen gladly to his songs and dreams. How often hath he sung of lands that never were, and things that never can be. Of Era did he speak much, of Era the river Nithra, and the falls of the tiny Craw. There would he ever say he once dwelt as a prince, though here we knew him from his birth. Nor was there ever a marble city of Era, nor those who could delight in strange songs, save in the dreams of mine old playmate, Iranon, who is gone. And in the twilight, as the stars came out one by one, and the moon cast on the marshness a radiance like that which a child sees, quivering on the floor as he is rocked to sleep at evening, there walked into the lethal quicksands a very old man in tattered purple, crowned with withered vine leaves, and gazing ahead as if upon the golden domes of a fair city where dreams are understood. That night something of youth and beauty died in the elder world.